Thank you very much. Let me start with an apology for my attire. We are in the middle of a move, and 30 days ago, all of our stuff left this port to take a 60-day journey to the US. And I perfectly looked at my calendar and realized I would need no suits for the last 30 days I was here. And then this invitation came, so here I am. So I apologize for my attire, but I won't apologize for my accent because I am not from here, I'm from Chicago. And I thought maybe what would be fun, at least for me, is to share the abnormalities that I've found in this place over the last 4 years. Some that you're very aware of, but maybe hearing it from an outside perspective will give it new life. So the first very abnormal thing here was on our very first trip, and some of you may have heard this story if you were here when President Biden was here, because Joe Kennedy III, the special envoy, told this story. But I was there for this story, so you'll now hear the original version. Joe did a great job telling it, and it was all true what he said. But the story goes like this. 4 Americans fly over to see Belfast for the first time, stopping in London so we could land directly here at the city airport. And London loses our luggage for one of our guys, Virgil, my boss. And so we show up, and Virgil, I'm the type that when I travel, I always travel in clothing that you could wear to a meeting, because you never know what's going to happen. But Virgil's not that guy. So he had a T-shirt and jeans. And the very next morning, we were supposed to go to Stormont to meet with the First Minister and the Deputy First Minister. And his luggage was lost. And we were staying at the Grand Central, and it was about 5:30. And we got there, and they had no idea who we were. They didn't need to know who we were. They knew we were American. I mean, from the moment we walked in the door, they said, these are Americans for sure. Look at how they're just so confidently walking in here like they own the place. So anyhow, we walked in there and we said, listen, is there anywhere where we could get some clothing? Because this gentleman, we have this meeting tomorrow. It's an important meeting. We didn't say with who, it didn't matter. But we need to get sorted with some clothing. And they said, well, if you go down to Ann Street, you'll find Bogart, but they close in about 10 minutes. So you really need to run and get down there to get there. So we go on down to Bogart, and the shutter is halfway down, and we knock on the door, and they open it and said, how can we help you? And we said, we've lost our luggage, and we need a suit. Is there anything you could do to help us? For Virgil. So they bring us in. We spent about 25 minutes there after they were closed in the shop, getting him sorted in a suit. And finally, at the end, the trousers were too long because Virgil's a little wider in the shoulders. He's a Marine than he is tall. And so the trousers needed to be hemmed. And now it is 6:15 at night, and there's nowhere to get them hemmed, and our meeting's at 8 in the morning. So one of the guys, and again, we haven't told them who we're with or who we're meeting with or why we're here, just that we need a suit. So the guy says, well, there's a lady down the lane from me that is a tailor. I'll take it home tonight. I'll get them hemmed for you, and they'll be back for tomorrow. And we said, well, that's great, but we're leaving the hotel at 7:15 in the morning. What time do you open? They said, well, we don't open till 9, but I'll be here at 7. So you have 15 minutes to put on your trousers and get to this meeting. And sure enough, the next morning, the guy was there with our trousers. Stephen Bradley's his name. I handed them to Virgil, handed them to me. I took them up to Virgil's room. He put on the trousers. We made the meeting and ended up investing here later. And part of the reason why is Virgil said, if this is the kind of place where someone will look after a stranger and help them out in a jam, then that's the kind of place you want to set up a team and a company. So that one little Bogart story is abnormal. It doesn't happen. That's an abnormality. That's odd that that happened. But it was wonderful. And it's a unique strength that I think that Northern Ireland has. Fast forward maybe 2 or 3 months, we started looking in other cities. And we looked in Galway, we looked in Cork, we looked in Edinburgh, we looked in Glasgow, we looked in Porto. We started looking across Europe to have comparators. And I was here for 3 weeks because I was going to all those other cities and just sort of made this my home base. And when you're here for 3 weeks, you might need a haircut. So I go into the Belfast Clipper right across from the same merchant hotel. John the Barber, sounds like someone out of the Bible. John the Barber is in there. And I get my haircut, and it's a different level of visit when you get your haircut in a country. You visit Spain, you visit Croatia, but when you get your haircut somewhere, it's a different level of visit. So I'd advise you to try it. So at the end, I'm ready to pay John, and he says it's 12 quid, and I said, can you make it 15? As I pulled up my card, and he said, well, I don't take cards. And I said, oh, okay, well, where can I go find a cash machine? And John said, well, from the looks of your hair, it's going to grow back. You're going to need a haircut. Just get me next time. And that's abnormal. That is odd that would happen. That's an abnormality. So I went and I went straight to the cash machine because I don't want to have a debt, especially in a foreign country, and paid John off. And I've been going to him ever since, and I'm due to go to him tomorrow for my final haircut in Northern Ireland, not my final haircut, God willing. So those are just two abnormalities at the start, that we experienced. I think then when we moved here as a family and we got into the education system, this education system is abnormal. My daughter got here 4 weeks before this thing called an AQE, which we'd never heard of and didn't know the importance of, and took this test where you have your students now with this transfer test, and there's a lot of negative sides of it, and I know that, and there's children left behind. I get that. But I don't want to talk about that side. I want to talk about the other side of it. You have children learning how to study very hard and apply themselves at way too young of an age, at 11, to do this transfer test. And then for those that succeed, will do the same thing again when they're 15 and 16 with their GCSEs. Way too young of an age to be studying that hard and learning that much and putting in that much effort. And it's abnormal that you do it, right? And then for those that will go back to their 6th form and take the 3 classes, they basically started university as 17-year-olds. For 2 years, they're at uni. You just don't call it that. They don't live off campus, and they're not drinking like they would at uni. But they're basically scholastically at uni. And then they do 3 years in something related to those 2 years, right, which actually went back to when they were 11. So by the time I come here to hire someone in IT or cybersecurity, they've been doing maths and excelling at maths long before any American or anyone from Portugal or anyone from Germany or the other places we looked. It's very abnormal, the education system here, and it is wonderful that you do it, and it's a unique advantage because your students are so driven and hardworking. We did a new technology here called PEGA, and we ran a PEGA Academy in the US and a PEGA Academy here. And we had a 60% pass rate in the US and 100% pass rate here of people that had never seen this technology. And why? I said, well, that just happened when they were 11. They prepared for this at 11 and at 16 and then all the way through uni. It's also abnormal the size of this place. For the weight that you guys can carry, to only have 1.9 million people and drive 2 hours in any direction, you've hit water or a land border, is abnormal. It's abnormal that I would know Sir Ian Greer as the Chancellor, Vice Chancellor of Queen's, or Paul Bartholomew, Dr. Paul Bartholomew at Ulster, as a smallish employer of 150 people, that I would know both the chancellors and could say, we really need students learning this about AI for the future. The connectivity, the connectivity you guys have in this room, the fact that you know each other, you know each other's partners, you've worked for each other's companies, you see each other in the same places. Everywhere I go, I run into someone I know in this town, as do you. I love it, especially when mates are visiting, and I just am in the Cathedral Quarter and see 7 people I know, none of who work for Aflac. They just are part of the Northern Ireland community. That sense of community that you have is abnormal, and it's a strategic strength that you have. And then to the harbor here, and this was the first place that, literally the first place I touched down, because we landed from London at your airport here. So literally the first place that I touched down, and now it's the last place that I'm leaving, in the sense that all of our stuff, including 2 cars that we've shipped home, shipped out of this harbor. I thought it was smart by putting Apple AirTags in the cars. I hid them in the fuse box so I could track my cars as they went. What I didn't consider is that as soon as you lock them in a steel, container, you don't see them for 60 days. But the cars have arrived in the US. Two classic cars from here that are my souvenirs of Northern Ireland. An emerald green Land Rover Defender, right-hand drive, which will be wonderful when I go through drive-thrus and things. But those are there, and all of our stuff is in the way. So we literally landed here in the harbor on our first visit in 2016. Now I've lived here for 4 years, and all of our stuff left this harbor to go back to America. But the harbor itself was a special place, and we knew as Aflac that this is where we wanted to be, because this is really the history of Belfast and what made Belfast Belfast. And I know I'm teaching Granny to suck eggs by telling you this story, since you're all from here. But as I've learned from living here, Carrickfergus was the place in Northern Ireland 400 years ago, and it wasn't until someone had the foresight to dig out the harbor and let the boats come in here that would make this and Belfast the city. The mouth of the river would be the city, not Carrickfergus, which is great for the castle and John de Courcy and the Andrew Jackson Home and the Ranger Museum and some things there. But this is where it's happening because of that foresight. And because this is the place on the center of the city, in our opinion, even though it's a bit like the Vatican with its own police force and its own thing, right? And I don't mean anything political by that comment. I'm not picking sides, God knows. But we said that this is the place that we want to set up because this is really the heartbeat of the city. And specifically in City Keys 3, where we are, ships are coming and going, airplanes are coming and going, cars are moving, TransLink trains are going. There's just action, there's movement, there's people walking, there's things. There's tourists coming on these cruise ships, many of them Americans, with their cameras out doing all the things. There's just a vibe that you get here in this. And especially because this was once the capital of rope making and linen making and shipbuilding. And none of those things are really done here anymore in any great need. There was not a lot of information about that, but what there was information about in this was world-class film studios, cybersecurity, IT, other initiatives. And so we have a mural in the 13th floor of City Keys 3 because we know that this town loves a mural. So we put one up and it has 3 words: adaptable, resilient, and reinventive. Because in all the travels that I've done in the parts of America I've been in other parts of the world, I've never seen a city that is so adaptable, resilient, and reinventive as Belfast, because the very things that you were known for, you're no longer known for. And then there was that period of time in the 70s, 80s, and 90s where you're known for something else that you're no longer known for. And now what you're known for is world-class talent, world-class film studios in the entertainment industry. So you've completely changed and adapted what you're known for, which is shocking because just as an example in the US, Detroit is Motor City, USA. But as Ford and GM and Dodge fell out of grace, I mean, that city's falling over itself, trying to figure out what to do. It cannot reinvent itself. It's stuck in the past of what it was. And that is a place that is left behind, you know, and is derelict. But this is a place that just constantly reinvents and is resilient. And one of the things that I told Mark, who's the new managing director, is there's a phrase I've not heard here in 4 years that I used to hear all the time and you hear all over the world. And it's abnormal that you don't hear it here. And that is, I never am talking to anyone and they start to reminisce on the good old days. And why can't things just be like they were 30 years ago? Nobody says that here. Everybody says it everywhere else. Man, 30 years ago, things were so much better. 20 years ago, things were so much better. If only we could go back to the good old days. But here, nobody wants to go back. Everybody wants to go forward. So it's a future-forward country. It's a future-forward city. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about it is you guys have been there, don't want to go there. It's all about what's next and what's down the road. And to have that kind of view for us as a company, if we're going to hire technologists, we want people that are constantly resilient and adapting because the technology is changing. They have to relearn. They have to reskill. They have to forget what they used to know and they thought was normal to do something that is now abnormal, like AI. And so what better place to put a company that's doing that than in a place known for constant change and forward movement? And that's what this place is to us. So it's been very special for me to be here. I've enjoyed the hell out of the 4 years we've been here. We have no desire to leave, but the company has said we have to. And my visa expires, so that's that. And just in terms of advice for the place, I think that the biggest challenge that this place has, which is also endearing, is that you guys don't know how good you are. And the people in the company that I work for don't know how good they are because you focus on the fact that you don't have a government and you focus on the fact that it rains all the time, which it doesn't. That's a lie. I've been here for 4 years. It doesn't rain all the time. But you focus on the rain and you focus on Stormont and you focus on, you know, Brexit and the Irish sea border and you focus on these things. And these are important things, I know. But I think you lose sight of all the things that are good about this place. And there's so many good things. So that's what I would leave you with is, sorry, I'm getting emotional, but I would leave you with, look at the good things here, because there are so many good things here. And the shame that I have is that people living here don't even see it. They don't even know how good it is. They dream of going to Dublin or London or America when Kilrea's got it all. Why would you leave? Why would you leave here? So that's what I would say, and I would encourage all of you, take a different look at this place. Someone gave me a list, one item at a time, that has now turned into 115 things you must do in Northern Ireland while you're here. And what happened is someone would say, well, have you ever been to Kelly Cellars? And I'd say, no. And they said, go there and have a pint. So I put that on my list. Have you ever seen the Puffins at Rathlin Island? Nope, you must go in May or June, go see it. So we've now done 115 things that you must do in Northern Ireland, all over the place. And as I share this list with people at work, they say, I've never been to Rathlin Island. I said, well, you live here, you should go there, right? It's right there. So I would encourage you, get out, explore this place, love this place the way that foreigners like me do. And thank you for having me the last 4 years. Appreciate it.